I have one last question that we'll address before we move to closing statements. And this one pertains to an issue that many league members have worked on across the Commonwealth, and that's the death penalty. According to deathpenaltyinfo.org, Pennsylvania had 222 inmates on death row as of January 1st, 2010, and that's the fourth highest number in the nation. Death row sentences are a huge expense for taxpayers, much larger than the cost of life sentences. And in addition, in a report published by the American Bar Association, they stated that the death penalty is applied unfairly along racial grounds. What measures would you propose to deal with this situation? And John, the question goes to you first.
Well, first and foremost, my faith tradition tells me that the death penalty is wrong. That said, I think that there is obviously there has been more evidence that indicates that government and our judicial system in adjudicating these cases has not proven infallible. So my concern would be, what do we know? How can we do better in the system? And in fact, what cost benefit do we have in the entire system? I think you have to step back and wonder if the cost that the taxpayers are bearing for a dysfunctional system is appropriate. And not even speaking on moral grounds, I'm just speaking on basic fiscal grounds. I think at the end of the day, we need to look very carefully at what's going on in the judicial system and how this gets adjudicated, and what I think consequences are resulting from a failed system. We need to look very carefully and correct where we can.
Thank you. Frank?
As I was growing up, I supported capital punishment, death penalty. I couldn't see how someone could harm a young member of my family and then not be punished for it. However, I have reviewed the current situation, the current circumstances. I am pro-life, and I believe that life has value. Plus, I look at the economic consequences in Pennsylvania. We put people on death row, but don't execute them. The cost of a person on death row is more than a person that is going to be incarcerated for life. Now, wait a minute. If we're sentencing them to death and we don't carry out the execution, the capital punishment, then why are we doing it? The cost to the taxpayer is too much. Plus, like I said, I've moderated my position. Pro-life means pro-life, at the beginning of life and at the end of life. So I believe that any case that would have or should have been sentenced to capital punishment should now be life, should be life imprisonment. Along racial lines, I believe our judicial system, our courts, should be colorblind, race blind, gender blind, ethnic blind. So if there's a disproportionate amount of a race or ethnicity that is convicted, you know what? I'm relying upon the courts, which once again we pay for, to make those decisions. So those decisions made by them are what I would rely on, because that's their field of expertise. But the point I bring is that the number one, value of life, and number two, the economic cost. The death penalty in Pennsylvania doesn't work at all.
Thank you to both gentlemen this evening for your responses to our questions. Unfortunately, we're out of time because I had more questions to ask. But I will now give you the opportunity for a 2-minute closing statement. And John, I believe that you're going to go first.
Well, thank you. First of all, I want to express thank you to Andrea, to the other officers of the League of Women Voters for giving us the opportunity to speak to the voters of the 22nd District. I want to thank Frank for joining me here. I guess I would want to close with a few basic remarks about why you find me here. I actually made this decision to run in February of this year, the first time I've ever run for office, but the decision I made was one of great consequence. I had been in the middle of a rather successful 30-year career in community and economic development, and could have parlayed, I think, a much different future, and perhaps one that would have been a little easier and maybe even a little more rewarding financially for my wife and our family. But I did believe I had a calling to public life. I believed I was built for it and destined for it in some way. and decided to make the decision to resign my position at the state to run for state senate. I'm born and raised in Archibald all my life. My father was a 30-year worker at Tobyhanna Army Depot. My mom was a talented seamstress and worked in the dress factories when we made clothing here in northeastern Pennsylvania. My wife and I are married 25 years with 2 children getting through college, and I looked at this as an opportunity to take a 30-year career in public life into the Pennsylvania State Senate. I've seen good government and I've seen bad government, and I know the difference. And I have had a chance throughout my career in public life to build a lot of things. I started off building housing for affordable housing for people and for seniors. I built flood control projects. I built roads and bridges that supported community and economic development and job growth in this region. But the most important thing I built in 30 years is a reputation for integrity and public service. And that's something that I want to take to the Pennsylvania State Senate. I know that if you want something good, you have to be what you want. You have to be good. You have to be good at what you say. You have to be good at who you are, be good at what you do. And I plan on being a good state senator if you'll provide me the support to get me there. Thank you.
Thank you, John Blake. Frank?
I'd like to thank Andrea Mulrine and the League of Women Voters of Lackawanna County, which I am a proud member, also the University of Scranton and ECTV. Ladies and gentlemen, this election is about you. We live every day with the headlines in the Scranton Times that tell us Harrisburg is broke and Harrisburg is not currently representing the people. You have to vote in this next election for the person that you think that go to Harrisburg and take your values to Harrisburg and fight for you in Harrisburg. Now, I just happen to have the owner's manual for the Republic. It's the Constitution of the United States and the Declaration of Independence. Before I sign any bill, I will read it, even if it is 2,000 pages of gobbledygook. And I will also ask the question, does this legislation produce opportunity? Does this legislation drive up the cost of government? Someone has to ask those questions. I can do that. My family's been, as introduced in the bio, we've been independent business people and entrepreneurs. We understand that you have to earn it before you can vote for it. Someone has to produce the wealth. Instead of taking the pie that is small and trying to cut it in smaller and smaller pieces, why don't we produce more wealth? Why don't we make another pie? We can't do it with the current batch in Harrisburg. It's not going to happen. We see that. What we need is sound fiscal discipline. We need accountability. We need someone to make the tough decisions, but yet take the feedback from the people. I hear the feedback from the libraries. I hear the feedback from the parents of the Scranton State School for the Deaf. You know what? We're not making the right decisions. And I promise you, my door would always be open. I will be there for you, and I will make the sound decisions to turn our Commonwealth around and make sure that we provide opportunity for our children so they do not have to leave. And also, I believe in eliminating school district property taxes. Thank you.
Thank you, Frank Scavo. How about a round of applause for both of our candidates? I want to express my thanks again to the University of Scranton and to ECTV for partnering with us, and to the Political Science Department here at the University of Scranton for co-hosting tonight's event with us. Again, on October 19th, we'll be at Keystone College with Sid Michaels-Kavulich and Dan Naylor. On October 25th, we will be here again with the candidates for the 112th District, Ken Smith and Lee Morgan. And then on October 27th, we'll be here again with the candidates for the 113th District, and that would be Kevin Murphy and Mike LaPala. So we invite you to join us here for those events. And also, don't forget to check the schedules for WVIA and also for PCN TV, WVIA. Again, next week on Tuesday, you'll be able to hear our candidates on stage this evening once again debating on at 7 p.m. next week. And then we also have congressional candidates debates that will be held during the last week of the month. So I invite you to join the League of Women Voters. It's the place where concerned and committed citizens can make a difference in government.